Welcome to another episode of the Bobcast. This week we'll begin with swimming, and this is an extended edition of our swimming conversation with head coach Bryan Christiansen. We're going to cover the CAC championship meet. We're really going to go through the entire team and really look at the season of the swimmers on the team and then look ahead to ECACs. And, Coach, let's start at CACs. Both teams took fourth at championships last weekend, the men finishing with 352 points, the most in program history. 3 swimmers were named All-CAC. Frostburg set 7 records at the meet. What are your overall thoughts and highlights from those CAC championships 2 weekends ago?
Right. Well, thanks for having me here, and I'm excited to dig into what everyone has done. Because
Absolutely.
I think, if anything this year, it really shows it was an entire team effort. It's one thing that I've tried to emphasize with both the men and the women this year is that every single swim matters, everything counts, and really, I'm not blowing smoke up anybody's butt. That's what it came down to this meet. Every single race, everything mattered, and I think we had a fantastic team meet, which is really fun to see. I think some individuals came a little short of their goals, a little short of our NCAA goals, but it's hard to be really upset with the amount of good swims that we had, and a fantastic team finish a year after graduating both the men's and women's 2-time swimmer of the year. It is fun to have the team come together.
Sure, and the championship meet, we're talking the second weekend of February. That's what we talk about in our very first conversation when we're starting to talk in October, November. Did you see the fast times or the fastest personal times across the board, really from up and down your lineup? Were you pleased with the final numbers that you got at CACs?
No. Sorry to say no, but
I
think we could have done better. We had a good amount of personal bests. And looking through everyone kind of after the fact, either at CACs or F&M, we had all but 3 people get at least one personal best this year, which to me isn't high enough.
Mm-hmm.
I always shoot for that 100% personal best, but it is good to see. And then, either at CACs or F&M, it's good to see people going as fast as they ever have, but I think we can figure some people out. We can do a little bit better next year. Kind of figure out how some people train and what other people need and how other people need to be motivated, and do a little better.
Yeah, you're allowed to say no.
Yeah.
You're allowed to answer the question however it is. How about this one? Were there any surprises for you from the CAC meet? Good surprises in terms of times and efforts?
Yeah, there's a lot of good surprises. I think our we can kind of get into people individually in a second here, but a lot of our top swimmers, finding a way to swim really well at our mid-season meet, and then finding a way to still get better at this meet was exciting. And then a lot of our sprinting in general was really good. A lot of people that I would have never, ever guessed would go this fast if you had told me back in September and October. Throwing down times on some of our 50s and 100s was really exciting. And some of our longer distance stuff, our 200s and 500s, were not as good. There were certainly some outliers, like some people had like really, really exceptional meets, like all lifetime bests in all distance events. But in general, I think our distance was a little bit weaker than our sprinting. And that was we saw a lot of drops, but from the season, but not necessarily a lot of lifetime bests. So it's kind of that tricky area where it's like a lot of season bests. You're swimming better than you ever have in the past year, but not necessarily that you ever have in your past life.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a little bit of that as we got a little longer, which is how we'll kind of reevaluate how we train next season.
Sure. The men scoring 352 points, finishing half a point ahead of St. Mary's. Do you think it's kind of fitting for the men to you have the 2-point loss to St. Mary's, the tie to Salem? We sit down on Monday mornings and you say every lane can contribute and counts every time you go out and swim. Was it fitting for them to have that pulling it out against St. Mary's by half a point and really wrapping up the season with the men coming out on top in one of these close meets.
Yeah, it's like finally. I don't know what we would have done
Yeah.
if we had been on the other end of that, which, if you recall, was how the CAC originally reported it.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I was there. And I was doing the math in between the sessions.
It was really easy because we couldn't have had half a point.
Yeah, exactly, because we had no ties. It felt good to finally be on the other end of that, and I feel like it took these kids 5 months to really realize that everything they do matters, and every swim, whenever they hop in the pool, they are racing for their team, and it counts, and it really, really does. So that was a really good feeling to just like finally be on the other end of that. After the tie and other close stuff, that was exciting.
Now, would you like to get into the all CAC kids or just the whole team one by one? I'll let you pick.
We'll go like a whole team one by one. One thing, I guess, our team, and I had forgot about this, but I guess our team picked up on it. Well, I think maybe one of the very first Bobcasts, we're talking about the conference rankings, how they ranked us 5th on the men's and women's side, and we finished 4th on both sides. I guess I get totally like, I was talking about how I thought we were underrated on, I think, the very first Bobcast. But our kids listened to it, and so they're chanting like, ranked us wrong. Like, it was a good motivator to get them going. Anyway, we can go through, and I've got some stuff dialed up here about everybody.
All right, we'll go alphabetical order, men's side first. Caden Abramowitz, and we'll just go swimmer by swimmer, and you can talk about their season.
Caden ended up being like the hero of the meet somehow. He had a really critical 200 breaststroke where he was seated beneath a swimmer from St. Mary's and ended up doing a fantastic time at 2:24, which he came in at like a 2:39 and then did a 2:30 at prelims and then a 2:24 at finals.
Wow.
Like, somehow, I think he was finally, actually, I think that he kind of lost track of the meet before the 100 IM and was literally like rushing up on the blocks, like really almost missed his event. It didn't swim that well in the 100 IM, and I think he really wanted to make up for that and really wanted to, like, you knew he had a chance to help the team. So that was like late on day 3. Really, without that swim, we would not have been in 4th place. So he ended up like really getting a lot of praise, which was awesome. Then he had a great 100 breaststroke as well, going to 104, the best he has ever done.
Sawyer Conklin.
Sawyer is a good candidate for probably swimmer of the meet in terms of just like dropping time. He came in with his 500 at a 5:09, did a 5:01, was 18 minutes in the mile, did a 17:39. Really, really fantastic job. He was actually the 4th highest individual scorer on the men's side with 29 points individually. And, even he did a lot of time trial stuff. He got lifetime best in 100 free and 100 fly. He just had an exceptional meet. He's our one distance swimmer. Kind of gives me a curveball, I think some other people didn't do as well. But I look at Sawyer, I'm like, well, Sawyer did great. So we just need someone like Sawyer, and he'll be okay.
Yeah. Peaking at the right time. Cameron Edwards.
Cam had kind of an off meet out of everybody. He did do best in the 100 free, but it wasn't necessarily the drop he wanted. His flies were really, really good. His 50 and 100 fly were as fast as he's ever done by a significant margin. His 50 frees, his frees seemed off, flies seemed good. That's kind of, I don't know, I guess that happens in meets like this sometimes. Year by year, you are really good at one stroke or one event, and you kind of miss some others. So it's hard to have a mixed bag. I think he was disappointed in some of his performances, but like he's never been close. He had 54.9 on the fly, and he had never. Yeah, I mean his best before that was a 57. Like he had never been close to that, but he's kind of right on his free time. So kind of a mixed bag meet for him, but we'll see what he can do at ECAC. He's got another shot at. He was good enough to make some ECAC cuts.
Sure.
We'll see if he can drop.
And his season will continue. Connor Giuffrida.
Connor had a real good meet. I was really impressed with his 100 fly. He kind of had one time in the 100 IM, the 100 fly taking out the 400 IM, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, I felt pretty good in that. I think I want to do it again. And then he time trialed it, and then time trialed again. And, like, every time he swam it, he was just, like, getting better and better. He won the Paralympic record, which is 1:13. He did 1:14, which is like, all right, man, you just missed it. But he got, like, a best time by 3 seconds. Like, it's hard to get upset with that. And then, his sprinting, 100 free was best time. 200 M was best time. Again, I think he just has high goals for himself, high Paralympic goals.
Sure.
So it's like he wanted to go 103 and 100 free. He went on 109, which was the best time for him. I was like, man, maybe that's still six seconds off. We got some little work to do if he wants to get that time. And he's kind of pushed himself based on some Paralympic events.
Yeah.
In the
lofty goals
in the spring and this summer and hopefully next summer in Tokyo. And yeah, it's good to have those goals, and I think he has a good head about himself, even if he comes up a little short. And it's hard. I think Connor is emblematic of what this team was, and in a way, that's a good thing that I like to see. That we were swimming fast, but frustrated because we weren't as fast as we wanted to go. But we still had like a lot of lifetime bests. So it's like this weird feeling. It's like we gotta just like be satisfied with doing well. But yeah, I think Connor really he's emblematic of a lot of that.
Sure. Next, Anthony Giuseppetti.
Anthony, for kind of like Cameron, almost in the opposite way. He his freestyle was really on. His backstroke was a little off, which he had that great backstroke swim, setting the team record at F&M.
Mm-hmm.
He was very close. He was about a tenth off that. Which I actually thought he would do a little bit better, but his freestyle blew me away. He was our fastest 500 freestyler after not really doing it the whole year. He was best on the team, tied fellow 500 freestyler Adam Stein for second most points individually with 32 points. Yeah, I mean, season best in the 200 backstroke, but about a second off his lifetime, but the best he's ever done in the 50 free to 21.9, 8 in a relay. Never been under 22 before. And 48.3 in the 100 free. Never had really been close to that. So, also team record in the 50 backstroke, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Getting 2 100ths quicker than he did at F&M, which he had set the team record there. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of a thing where it's really, really hard to be good at all three events, and including relays. Anthony had like 7 different events. End up being a year for freestyle for him. We'll kind of see again at ECAC. He'll get another chance. He made some ECAC A cuts in his backstroke events, so he'll be ripping it up. And we'll kind of see if he can improve.
And just to comment on the men's side, so many of these guys are going to be back.
Yeah, they're all young. I mean, Anthony's a sophomore.
Yeah, he's a sophomore, and so there's plenty of room to grow and continue to improve. Doug Goodell.
Doug, mystifies me. It's amazing. He really went all out this meet. Lifetime bests and everything that he touched. And this is a kid who he was a transfer. Didn't swim last year. He still has 4 years of eligibility. We'll see if he stays here 4 years or if he finishes up and graduates after the next 3. But I think he's got a bright future here. Cranking out like a 22.2 in a relay. I mean, this guy was doing like 24.7s like a couple weeks ago. It's just like astounding. In his 100 and 200 breaststroke, he was right behind Caden, kind of in that miracle winning swim. We would not have won this meet without Doug. And then his 100 breaststroke going 105, which he was seated with a 109, which I think was his best at that time. And then suddenly he just popped, and he had he had an incredible meet. Just a stellar performance out of Doug.
Luke Holloway.
Luke, yeah, Luke was the man. I mean, two out of his 3 events were team records, 100 free and 100 IM. I mean, by significant margins. Going 53.6, dropping 2 seconds in 100 IM from where it was last year. Our number 1 point scorer with 49 individual points. That that edges our number 1 women's point scorer as well, which we'll talk about that in a second. Probably one of the best swims of the weekend was his 50 free. He came in, seeded second in the meet, was 6th after prelims, kind of on this outside lane, and then ended up getting second at 21.1, which is faster than he has ever gone, like by far. He was a 21.5 at the midseason meet and never had been under 21 until this year. Kind of coming around the outside lane, getting second place in that. Third was a 21.14. He was a 21.10, which it's just like the difference between silver and bronze is crazy, and he swam an incredible race. Then I was frustrated after the 100 free. He had won the 100 free last year with a 46.9. It's hard. He won a 46.2 and got second. It's hard to be like, man, you dropped 7/10 in 100. That's a significant drop in a race like that. Personal best, team record, second place. 46.1 was first. I mean that was a stellar, outstanding swim. And Luke did a pretty great job.
Yeah, top scorer on the men's side. Next is Amari Maltzby.
Amari really had a fantastic meet. Amari, this was very much a transition year for him. Very limited high school background, kind of still figuring out like what competitive swimming even is. He ended up cranking lifetime best in everything by like really significantly. I mean, this kid came in like a 113, 100 free, did like a 57, which I never think. Look at this kid in September. He could. He came in board shorts and like no goggles, like. It ended up being pretty competitive in this 50, 24.6. Really a significant time that ends up kind of contending for us. And then like a 20-second drop in his backstroke, and he is putting the work. I see him doing dives every single day, working his starts, and he just got better and better and better. He's still very much in that learning phase. But I'm excited for him to stick with it and see what he can do next year.
Hunter McFalls.
Hunter, kind of in that Cameron Anthony vein. Fantastic freestyle, like a terrible backstroke, in which he was really geared up for his 100 backstroke. He wanted to break a minute, and it didn't quite happen. But at the same time, he literally, I have my sheet here. Let's go through. Lifetime best 100 free, lifetime best 50 free, lifetime best 100 IM, lifetime best 200 free, and it's kind of like, I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't hit with everything. This was a great kid. In the 200 freestyle in the morning, it was like, Coach Bryan, I'm just gonna like go all out in the first 50. I'm gonna make top 8 and like just go as fast as I can. I was like, that's not really a good idea. That's not how you swim 200. Like you shouldn't just like die on the first lap. You got 7 more after that, and he did 156, which was a lifetime best for him. And I was like, hey, we got to swim this a little different. Swim this with a little bit more pacing. And at night, he turned around, did a 153, managed to find a 3-second drop with just like, no physiological change, just a change in strategy. So he was a kid who really was willing to make that change, and to see the payoff was awesome. 153 is like legit, and especially for a kid who had been, I think, a 157 coming into this meet. It was really fun to see. So again, not really at 100 back, but firing off on some of these freestyle events, he looked really solid.
Brady Peterson.
Brady, I didn't quite know what to make of Brady's swims. Fantastic freestyle 50, 200 free, lifetime best in that. 200 free being in the relay. And then 100 fly, getting an ECAC cut, going 53.9. He's never been that fast before. He was going 55s last year. And but the 200 fly, which is arguably his best event, and has been his best all year, he was just a little off. Did 204 in the morning, 206 at night. He did swim the mile that day. I don't know if that's a factor or not. The 2 fly mile is kind of a tough double.
Yeah.
But he had done it last year and done a little bit better. So I think just, we got to do some endurance work with him. He was still number 5 on the men's side. He'll go to ECACs in that 100 fly individually, as well as rounding out our 8 free relay. Ended up being our 4th best 200 freestyler. So we'll kind of figure out that 200 fly. It's not really an easy event, but it's an event that's really Brady's signature event. So we'll kind of, it's another weird like. I want kids to be good at everything, and it's like, man, best ever 100 fly, not quite 200 fly. We gotta figure out a way to get better at more things.
Well, he'll have a chance to continue his season at ECACs as well. Next is Luke Russell.
Luke got best times in just about everything he did. One of the few people with the ignominious distinction of having no finals swims individually. Even though he was very close in the 50 free, he ended up tying and had a swim off for 16th place, and it was a heartbreaker because the officials didn't tell him which lane they should be in, and so they ended up getting in the wrong lanes. On the board it said Luke Russell 21.99, which were like, oh, that's awesome. Luke has never been under 22, and I guess he was in the wrong lane. His competitor did 21.99 and he did 22.02. We were like, oh man, that sucks.
Right down to it.
But so really a swim off, 3 100ths away from getting his first ever finals swim in a lifetime best time, and he rounded all the relays and did really 48.3 in some of those hundreds, which was really impressive for him. And cranking out a couple consistent low 22s, 22.0s, 22.3s was a really big step for him this year. And he'll join us next year, and his brother's coming next year. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, this as a first-year swimmer, his first conference championships at the college level. Next, Adam Stein, another first year.
Yeah, Adam, after having just a stellar year, was just flat out off this meet. He did end up going a lifetime best in the 500 free by a second, pushing his F&M time down a little bit, but off in the mile, off in the 4 a.m. I mean, he scored in all of them. Tied for second place, tied with Giuseppe at 32 points individually, as our second highest scorer. But just kind of individually, he was placing top 8, and to be honest, even if he had better times, he wouldn't necessarily have. It wouldn't really affect his place that much. If anything, we might have been saying, "Oh wow, we won by 2 points," instead of winning by 0.5 or something. That's a way of saying, great team score, but just individually, a little off. I think, he's a first year as well. Talking to him, it seemed like he was kind of, I don't know. He said the vibe was a little off to me. It wasn't really what he was used to. It wasn't necessarily the championship feel that he was used to. And he'll get another chance at ECACs to kind of, we'll see if that vibe's any better. But he'll keep maturing, and we'll hopefully do better next year.
And finally, for the men's team, Matt Whelan.
Matt was fantastic. Another kid who was like, oh man, I just want to go 49 on my 100 free, and goes like a 50.2, and it's like, that's pretty good. And then lifetime best in the fly and the IM, end up sneaking in top 16 in the IM, sneaking in the 100 fly. Real exciting to see him succeed this year, especially because he came in. He had quit the team last year, pretty early on, like in September last year. Ended up coming back to the team this year. Still pretty late, like in October. It's tough spending a year off. That's the Doug Goodell method of like not doing anything for a year, just sitting around, watching TV. Not doing any kind of athletic activity of any kind. Coming back, and this is not an easy sport to just jump back into. And to do some lifetime bests, in I think everything he swam this year. 50 free in the relay, 22-2, 100 free, 50 fly, 100 fly, 100 IM. 50 fly being opening up the 100 fly, that is, as I'm looking at my sheet here. Cranking out 1, 2, 3, 4 best times, best swims was awesome. So that was really exciting.
And so that was the men's side. And really, just to recap the men's side, everyone I'm seeing here off the top of my head: Holloway, Giuseppetti, Stein, Conklin, Peterson, all underclassmen, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Our juniors are Matt Whelan and Hunter, and everyone else is sophomores or below. So, this is a young team. This is going to be an exciting team to watch next couple of years.
Yeah, certainly plenty of room to improve, and a solid showing from the men's side. A lot of personal bests and getting to finals on the men's side. We'll scoot over to the women's side, starting with the Culbertsons, Katie and Megan. You can go Katie first.
Katie, it was great to see her this year sneaking into finals. And Katie is, she's another Doug, Matt, older transfer. Had some years off swimming. To be honest, this year we're just like, we're just gonna have fun, kind of see where you're at. Not a lot of pressure. We're swimming because you love swimming, and I think it showed because she did best in every single event she swam really, really well, and ended up sneaking into finals. In that 100 backstroke, which was just amazing. I can't believe she was a final swimmer after a couple of years off. Just showing the commitment and doing really well, which was exciting. Younger sister, Megan, also did well. Another kind of like did great. Thought she might do better. Ended up getting just like steady drops. It wasn't like crazy drops. Just 1 second here, 2 seconds there. It was nice in the IM. She cranked out like she had like a 2 second drop in prelims. Cranked out another 2 seconds in finals. And then swimming her way on to a couple of our relays. The 2 free relay, the 800 freestyle relay, and then being pretty close in contention for the freestyle leg and some of our medleys. Doing better than she ever has. Which is really exciting. And then ended up getting on that 2 free relay qualifier for ECAC, so extending her season a little bit. It was really fun to watch.
Daisy DeMonte.
Daisy did fantastic. Our number 2 women's scorer, and really only number 2 because she decided to disqualify her 50 freestyle. She left early on the blocks, which is, I submitted her for Rookie of the Year. Despite that, she did not win it, but a couple second place finishes, 100 AM, 100 fly, kind of make up for that. It was really exciting to see. And then she ended up doing a lifetime best in the 50 free after in a time trial, and lifetime best 100 free leading off our relay. Her going 57.9, being the number 1 overall seed in the 100 fly in prelims was like legit. Nationals would probably be like a mid 56 this year, 56.4, 56.5. We'll kind of see when that comes out on tomorrow, I think. The national list should come out. That was a girl, we kind of had that as a goal of like, maybe this could be achievable. Coming in at like a minute point in the fly and cranking out 57.9 is, it's like, oh man, we wanted to go 56, but like, hey, 57 is still pretty damn good. And then being the number 1 overall seed in 100 IM, preserving that seed in after prelims, and then final, she kind of had a weird swim. she literally didn't touch the wall on her backstroke. Well, she touched the wall, but she didn't touch the pad. She was so close to the lane line. But if you look at the CAC website, it says that like Maddie was third and Daisy wasn't on there. It's because her time that registered was literally like her 50 time. They had to correct that. The 008 was her final time, not just her 50 time. Um, so that was kind of like misreported again. But I mean, all her points and stuff was all reported correctly. But I think she probably could have won that, which would have been exciting. Um, we didn't have a lot of experience with that event. We'll kind of keep rolling with that. And I don't believe she'll be returning next year. She's kind of a one and done swimmer. Despite being a junior, she was a transfer with a lot of credits and is kind of got to move on, start her life, which it's tough losing Daisy, but we will. I'm not going to stand in the way of someone's life success like that.
And she set quite a few records along the way. What was the record before in the 100 fly? Was she the first Bobcat to go under 1 minute?
Yeah,
correct.
Because she had reset it herself at that 00 from F&M, and she's the first one under a minute, which is exciting. Her total tally, 100 IM. I think it's 3 records: 100 IM, 50 fly, and 100 fly, which is a lot of fun.
A great way to conclude her season with the conference meet. She'll be at ECAC's, I assume, as well.
Yep.
Megan Doyle next.
Doyle really surprised me with how good she did. She had taken basically all of January off. She got an internship over intersession. And it really didn't, so we're looking back at like finals, like mid-December, her last real organized practice, going from mid-December until late January. She had about 3 weeks with us and still cranked out a best time in the 200 free and the 100 IM. Was very close in the 500 free. She, it pained me. She was like an alternate specialist. I think she got 17th or 18th in every single event. Which to be honest, I thought, she was losing half her season. I was like, man, this is just gonna be a totally sunk season. But she cranked out a lot of best times. A really impressive, well swum 200 free. Exciting 100 IM that just, I'm pumped for her to get back at it next year. And that's another girl that's like, yeah, her swimming suffered, but what are we really in this for? Getting internships, getting jobs, moving ahead. I can't stand the way of that. It's like, you swim an intersession, maybe you drop a little bit more time, get 16th place, get us a point, and it's great. But there are more important things out here.
Sure. And she still posted some fast times.
Oh yeah,
as well. Megan Hendershot, Hendershot.
Hendershot. She had. It was great to see her get into the 400 AM in finals. She had a knee sprain over training trip. Was kind of fighting that all this last semester. And that breaststroke was certainly painful for her in that 400 IM, but she was able to kind of get it together and kind of get in to finals and still score us some points, which was really significant. It helped us out. She scored us a nice 5 points there. Placed really well, which was exciting. A little off in some of her other events. She's very close, not quite. Not quite where I think she wanted to be, but she's pretty mature about it. And I think kind of realized that the work she needs to do next year, just getting healthy and kind of bouncing back from, I think, what she would call a disappointing season. Still season best times and everything. Best that she swam this year, but I think she wanted to be a little bit better. I want her to be a little bit better, and sometimes it's good to face that kind of disappointment to give you that motivation for next year. Know she can't really sit on her laurels, and she's got to get back at it.
Becca Marsh.
Becca, I think if you asked Becca, she would say she had a really disappointing meet, but I would disagree. I think she set her sights really, really high. She wanted just to go after some team records. Um, she wanted to be a 5:17 in the 500. Her best time was a 5:25. 5:17 just being Macy Nitschke's team record. She ended up going a 5:23 in a fantastic swim. I was very disappointed in it, but it's like it can't be disappointed in lifetime bests. Um, in 5:17, that's a big drop in 500. And in the mile, the mile's just kind of been her bane all year. She really wants the record, which is again kind of putting that external pressure on yourselves and ignoring how well she actually was swimming. Um, she had an 18:44.7, the record being an 18:44.2, which is terrible. I'll be the first to admit in the mile swim to come so close and to be a little bit short, but that mile, that was like watching her swim. That it was like watching a piece of art. I swear, and she is an artist. She's an art major. Um, she would speed up when she needed to. She got into pace when she needed to. I've never seen someone respond to the counting and shaking like that, how she did. She would fall off and get right back on it. And really had she really did have a fantastic swim. Lifetime best by 2 seconds. I think she qualified it as .5 off the record, so it was terrible. When it's like, no, we need to kind of take a step back and say, listen, this was great. She's got another year to get that record, and
Yeah.
we'll kind of see what she does. But she had some fantastic swims.
The chase will continue for her next year as well.
Yep.
Sarah Moneypenny.
Sarah's kind of struggled all year with some shoulder injuries. She was also feeling a little sick during that 500 free. Ended up not doing as well. Then she had a 200 free, 100 backstroke double on Saturday. She ended up kind of right on her best times, a couple tenths off. Which, to be honest, I was amazed she was even there. I mean, she really kicks for most of practice. Been limited with what her shoulders can do, and to be right on her best was exciting to see, and to see her working hard and seeing even getting able to race. Because she really didn't get to swim much at all last year, and she was another transfer that we had. I think it was a great step, and we'll keep pushing her and see what she can do next year.
Aubrey Morris.
Aubrey, a great time in the 100 fly and the 100 free this year, a little off the 2 fly. The women's team we kind of played with a lot of injuries. She had hurt her back a couple weeks ago. You really saw it on the first night. She got a little better after that, but that constant undulation on the butterfly was really doing a number on her. At F&M, she had done better than she ever had in the 200 fly. She only swum it, I think. She had swum it like 4 times in her life. Once was at I think it was Mary Washington, and then once was F&M in prelims, and then F&M at finals. She was off. I think it was the final day caught up with her, and her back was getting irritated. She also made ECACs though, and she has said that she's felt a lot better this week. I'm kind of excited to see how she does this weekend. I think she'll pull it together and have a really good meet. I think unfortunately she just needed like another 2 weeks to heal. Despite all that, she had a lifetime best in 100 free. So it is amazing what some of these kids can do.
Sure.
That are like busted up. And she did season best in the 100 fly. Pretty close to her lifetime best. Despite being in a lot of pain, she was icing and like lying on her back a lot. So I'm excited for what she can do, and she's a freshman, and I always kind of think you've got one weird season to get out of the way. Your freshman year is kind of a good thing. She'll come back and do really well for us. Probably be one of our top scorers next year. Let's see, she was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She was number 6 this year. I think she'll do pretty well next year.
Sure. Elizabeth Myers.
Elizabeth, she had a tough meet in the 50 and the 100 free. She was very off, or 100 fly, very off, and then she came back in the 200 fly and had a great swim, which is really exciting. It's always good when it's way harder when you have a couple bad swims to get up for like your last one on the fourth day and to still have confidence and to still like commit. And that ended up being her best of the weekend in a 200 fly, no less, which is really inspirational to watch. Her kind of kill it on the last day in her last swims. It's really fun. She'll be a senior next year, probably with an expanded role, and I'm excited to see how she does.
Rebecca Proctor.
Proctor had a great meet. Best times and everything she swam, 50 free, 100 free, 200 free. Really exciting to watch her. Ended up kind of being on the bubble in a lot of those relays. She was like our fifth or sixth girl in the 50 free, and then ended up being our fourth best in the 100 free. Swam herself into our last relay. After we did some swim offs in the morning, which was fun to watch. And she, really improved on her seed. She ended up making it back to finals, like 14th in the 50 free, which is like not an easy event to be 14th in. Ended up coming back in the 100 free as well, which is really fun to see a little payoff, for her.
Taylor Stanback.
Taylor, kind of like Elizabeth, had a tough meet. She's had almost any kind of injury you can think of this year. I feel like she's really struggled. She is 50 free, 100 fly, kind of way off. I mean, season best times, which is great, and then 200 fly, which event she struggled with for the entire year, kind of having that sustainable fly. But she ended up pulling it out and having a great swim. Improved in finals. Did really well. We ended up putting 4 girls in the 200 fly, and which was awesome. We felt like Mary Washington with like a Frostburg dominated heat. And she ended up being one of the best we had in that, kind of reclaiming her spot, the spot she had last year, which was really fulfilling, to watch and to have a good meet come down, with her.
Gabby Thompson.
Gabby has we kind of got on this mission of her swimming every event possible. I think that we ended up missing the 200 backstroke. We thought about doing it on the last day, but it was just like she had swam too much. 400 AM, 200 fly, and mile are I challenge you to find a harder series of events. Maybe 500 free 4 AM mile for just max distance, but she ended up doing the mile like about probably 30 minutes after her 200 fly. Lifetime best and everything she touched. 400 AM lifetime best. Actually, only 9 seconds off our team record, and she's a freshman. She ended up finishing it and being like, "Hey, I kind of want this record in my time here." And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." 2 fly was a fantastic swim in the mile. Did really well. She was 1, 2, 3, fifth, our fifth highest score as a freshman, and our highest scoring freshman, narrowly edging out Aubrey. So we'll expect some pretty exciting things from Gabby in the years to come.
Emily Turner.
Emily, number 4 on the scoring. I haven't really talked about scoring yet. Rebecca Marsh was number 3. It's going to be tough to lose Emily next year. We're kind of getting into our seniors. We don't have any guy seniors. Our seniors are all like literally on the last, like alphabetically, they're like last. Emily had a great meet, season but not lifetime best in the 200 back and 100 or 200 back and 200 free. That 2 free was a little off from where she wanted to be, but 200 backstroke was a really competent swim. It was like a 4-second drop from where she was in the season, and then ended up being a lifetime best in the 100 backstroke, which would have narrowly been a team record had not Daisy set the 100 backstroke team record. She ended up dipping below 101.59, which is right under the 101.63, I believe, from Lauren Schlegel back in '82. So Emily moves up to number 2 all time on the Frostburg Bobcat backstroke depth chart.
Mm-hmm.
Right behind Daisy. Which it's a nice year having number 1, number 2
Yes.
in backstroke all time. So that was really fun for her, and she was really excited after that race. And EDCAC's, it's fun. She is swimming only backstroke. She ended up making the cut in the 100. And then we'll do both our medley relays. So we're training this week, and it's like, hey, you have no more freestyle for your career. Only backstroke. So she's having some fun with that, and I think hopefully we'll end on a pretty fun note. She can maybe even beat Daisy's record. She's still got another swim. If she can find another half second, and but I think she will hopefully have a good time with that.
Maddie Weinberger.
Maddie, it was obviously we really wanted nationals. It was kind of a nationals or bust year for Maddie. Unfortunately, we kind of leaned towards bust, but she ended up, it's painful. Second in the 100 breaststroke by 0.01. She was frustrated with that, but I think more frustrated she was probably a 104.0 or maybe low 104 will go this year. She ended up being 105.9, which is just kind of short of her own goals. And then her number 1 seed in the 200 breaststroke going into finals ended up getting third. It was frustrating for her. Despite all of this, some great things for Maddie. Number 1 on the women's side with points, 48 points, right behind Luke's 49 for number 1 on the team. Lifetime best 100 IM, good enough for 4th place. She was the fastest 50 breaststroker of any team in the medley relay, going 29.7, which is a lifetime best 50 breaststroke. And she was the fastest 100 breaststroker in the pool in the 400 medley relay, actually improving on her. She had a 105.88, actually improving a little bit on her 100 breaststroke swim, which no one else did. The winner, St. Mary's winner, ended up going to 107 in the breaststroke in the relay, which I don't know, maybe a small consolation prize for her. It was like she was the fastest in the pool, but just kind of not at the right time in the individual events. And then just kind of off, where she wanted to be. So she'll be in 3 relays on the women's side and A cuts in the 100 breaststroke at ECACs. And, unfortunately we can't qualify for nationals from ECACs, but, she can keep trying and try to hit some of her goals. Just getting those times that, would have gone, those low 104s. And, we'll see what she can do. But,
yeah, she collected her 5th career All-CAC award in her final conference championships as a senior.
Yeah.
Samantha Will.
Sam, kind of off in her 500 and mile. Ended up doing a lifetime best 100 free, which to me is kind of the epitome of I think our sprinting was really on really well this year. Our distance maybe a little off, despite actually Gabby, Sawyer, and Becca all doing lifetime best in the mile. We just didn't see the across the board kind of triumphs in that. Sam, our final senior, it was nice for her to score some points. In the mile, getting in there, she contributed to, how well the women's team did this year. And just kind of playing that alternate game, in the 500 and 100 free was something that I think she really wanted to do. She was pumped up for. Tough time to do 100 free and mile on the same day, but she did a nice job with it.
And finally, on the women's side, Val Yoder.
Val, she's had kind of a tough season. I feel like all of our women's teams dealing with injuries. Val is no different. She ended up having kind of a tough meet. She dropped a little bit of time, but um, not really close to her lifetime best. Not really close to where she was last year. Kind of a disappointing meet for her. Um, Still got some points for us in the 400 IM, which was a very nice swim. Um, she looked good. She swam some good races, but the times weren't really there. And I guess it's a good person to think about, like, the times don't necessarily matter all the time. I think we get wrapped up in it a lot, but she had three really good, really competent races. Um, with some really strong effort. Times weren't there for this meet, but we'll kind of keep going and see what she can do.
Yeah, get healthy for next season.
Yeah.
Women's side, any big picture thoughts as we transition to ECACs?
Our women disqualified the 200 medley relay on night one in kind of an obscure rule. Our freestyler pushed off a little bit on her back, which you're not allowed to do on freestyle in a medley situation because it resembles backstroke and you can't do any of the strokes twice. I can see your head.
I'm perplexed.
Your gears turning. Kind of an obscure rule.
Okay.
But we end up getting DQ'd for that, which I guess I'll say this on the Bobcast, just because I feel like you see a DQ on a relay, you assume someone jumped or anything. Our starts were safe. Our starts were good. It was just kind of a weird rule, which Ryan Lochte got DQ'd for this in the 200 am. I think it was 200 am. Might have been 400 am a couple of years ago. Kind of a weird rule. I actually saw some people at I watched the Maryland High School state meet this past Saturday, and they actually had a relay get DQ'd for that there as well. So it's kind of a thing you're not really used to. Point being, we were down by a lot. Relays, especially when there's only 5 teams, they count for a lot of points.
Sure.
And so, women were in last place for basically the first 3 days. We ended up making up a 75-point gap to overtake Salisbury for getting 4th place, which is a significant achievement. I was really excited on the women's side. Point rundown, Maddie first, Daisy second, Marsh third, Emily fourth, Gabby fifth. Now, if you look at that, we are losing 1, 2, 4 for next year. That's rough. But I'm confident in this women's team stepping up. Your Marsh, Gabby, Aubrey. Next on the points list was Taylor, Elizabeth, Megan Culbertson, Hendershot. All these people will be back next year. That core will hopefully keep us moving forward.
And for the women's team, hopefully healthier next year as well.
Yeah, that was a big thing on the women's side. And you could tell people who were locked in, people who were healthy. The Culbertsons, Daisy, even Megan Doyle and Proctor. They all had great meets. People who were busted up did not, which it's kind of how it works. So
finally, let's switch gears to ECACs. Who's in?
So every men's relay made it, which is amazing. We can only swim 4 because a lot of people made it. The same people made it in all 5, and you can only have a maximum of 4 relays. So that is the men's side. It's Luke Holloway, Adam Stein, Anthony Giuseppetti, Brady Peterson, Cameron Edwards, and Luke Russell. I think all of them have B events to swim. Cameron in the 100 fly, Luke Russell in the 50 free, Brady A cut in the 100 fly, Anthony A cuts in both backstrokes, and a B cut in the 500 free. So Anthony pretty much swim the same exact meet that he did. Luke will go 50, 100 free, 200 free, because there's no 100 IM at ECACs. And then on the women's side, Daisy actually had the most A cuts, 50, 100 free, 100 fly, 100 back. She can only swim 3 of those. And I think we'll lean towards getting rid of the backstroke. Seeing if I just asked her. I'm like texting her. We'll see what she wants to do. But Maddie 8 cuts in the freestyle or the freestyle. Maddie is a good freestyler. Do not make 8 cuts in freestyle. In the breaststrokes, and then Emily with that B cut in the 100 back, and then in addition to them, we'll send Aubrey Morris and Megan Culbertson rounding out some of our relays, and they'll probably do some time trial swims. I'd like to see Culbertson do a 200 breaststroke, which is one of her other better events. We end up going with the 100 IM, not the 2 breast at conference. So it's exciting to see what they can do.
What are your goals and expectations for ECACs?
We've got some pesky team records that I'd like to get.
Do you care to name those records?
Our women's medley, 200 medley DQ'd at a 151.8, and the record is a 151.3,
Okay.
which I think is easily within range. We did that 151.8 with a really off. Again, that freestyle leg was just kind of weird. Ended up being Aubrey was that leg, and she was just kind of really off her best. Again, kind of dealing with her back. But on the Met, that is a that's a Macy Nitchie record relay, which our one relay record we got was the 400 medley at conference, which I should add was exciting to have the number 2 breaststroker, the number 2 flyer, and the number 5 backstroker, and Becca Marsh was our anchor on that relay. She did 55.7, which is like flying fast, which is exciting. Anyway, we got that record. That also made the ECAC cut. We'll see if we can improve on that. And the 200 free, which has been on the women's side, which has been a 141.08, which has been tied for 32 years. The 85 squad and the 87 squad both have that record. They're both tied. We were a 143.0, which I didn't think was very good. I'm sorry, ladies. We need to be better.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can be better, and I really want to go after that. No more tied records for 32 years on the board. Men's side on a relay. Record is 127.4, which I think is doable. We did a 129.5 with not our best guys, like Luke Holloway, number 2 in the conference, was not on that relay. Anthony was not on that relay either. We kind of filled it with some kids who were doing pretty well. We had our Luke and Anthony fill out every other relay. So we'll go after that. On the men's side, I think we're going to skip the 400 medley relay. We're going to stop pretending that we have a breaststroker. And we can't do this relay, and we'll go after all the others. That and the 4 free on the men's side, which is a 312. I think it was within reach. We're at 314. Again, and Luke was like 47.0. Cameron Edwards was like a 50 point on that relay. We got to have these guys, averaging like 48s, and Luke going like a 46.0, or maybe even, dare I say, 45, like 45.9. I want us to push this relay and go really fast. And both those freestyle relay records go back to 1993. It's like too long. We gotta get rid of those. And I just don't think we're gonna get the medleys on the men's side. We
Not this year.
No, it's tough losing that 55 breaststroker. I think everyone else has improved. I wish Christian had been like a freshman last year or something, so they could have all improved together. But it's just not going to happen. Without that, we gotta get somebody else to fill that gap. And the 8 free, I thought we were very close, but or I thought we could have been very close, but we were kind of had some good swims. Again, we had like 3 lifetime bests on the 8 free relay, but just wasn't quite there. So we'll kind of see what happens with that.
We will. Hopefully some relays will fall, and we have set a record here, the longest Bobcast segment
of all time.
Of all time.
Yes.
Nearly reaching an hour, but I think it was well worth it.
Well, listeners at home, if you've made it through this, congratulations. That is the ultimate Bobcat rundown.
Every swimmer, men's team, women's
Yeah,
team, was mentioned in this Bobcast.
I think that's really important. This is a team sport. Um, we gotta be better as a team, and this our all of our accomplishments happen as a team, and you know, listeners at home, every single one of you was responsible for that.
And so the Bobcats are off to Navy this weekend for ECACs. We'll chat next week and wrap it up. Bryan Christiansen, thank you for this marathon episode of the Bobcast.
Thank you. Go Bobcats.
Next on the Bobcast, we have a season recap edition. It is men's basketball with head coach Sean Brown. Men's basketball finishing the season at 10-16, fifth place in the Capital Athletic Conference, 6-8 in league play. The season ended on Tuesday at Salisbury, an overtime loss, unfortunately. Some highlights from this year: a big win at number 24 Salisbury, that first win in Salisbury since 2010, 2011, a sweep over a very good Mary Washington team, and really a toe-to-toe and overtime game with Division I Longwood have really highlighted the season from the outside looking in. But Coach, what were the highlights for this team this season from your perspective?
Well, you mentioned it. The first thing, going out and getting changed that first game. Our guys thought that we were going to have a big year, and so did we. It was really nice to go out and get that one, the first one. A non-Division III opponent. I think they were Division II. They might be dropping out of the NCAA this year or last, one of the two. But it was nice to go out and get that one. That was really big for us, and our guys really cherished that moment. And it was exciting for me to get my first win as a head coach as Frostburg State men's basketball head coach. So that was a big one. There was, throughout the year there was a lot of memories created. The Longwood game you mentioned, that was really, really big. We had that game. We felt like we had it won twice in the same game in regulation, but we didn't pull it out. And Longwood's having a pretty solid season right now. There's a few things that we did against them. We know our athleticism bothered them, and they struggle against against really athletic teams, and we were a little more athletic than that team, but they pulled it out at the end. And again, our guys, they were disappointed. They thought we should have won that game, and I was happy that our guys came out and played as well as they did, and really, really pushed forward to try to get that win. Obviously, beating Mary Washington twice in one calendar year, that was great. In the same, in the same season, that was awesome. And then winning down at Salisbury.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the last time that a Frostburg State team won at Salisbury.
10-11.
Okay.
It's been nearly a decade since that happened.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that must have been when we first got into the Capitol. Then.
First year.
So these were all feathers in our cap, and I think if we'd have won that playoff game, that would have capped off a really memorable season.
Sure, and even one that I just thought of sitting here that I want to throw in there that might not be as impressive on paper, the Southern Virginia win at Southern Virginia in that place to play, the way that at the end of the game, the lob to Cole.
And they were winning most of the game.
They were.
We came back, and we were really poised. We executed down the stretch. But at times of the season, we looked really good. I mean, we looked like a real, really, really good, contender. A few things, ball don't bounce all the way a few times, and that's the difference. In going 16-10 and 10-16.
Sure. What will you remember from this team and this group of guys that you'll take with you when you look back on this season?
Well, I'll definitely remember how no one quit. Everyone's fought, especially for our seniors. Looking back, that's probably what I'll remember more than anything is how our guys fought all the way to the end, and we wanted to do well, especially for that the group of seniors. who we love and have a whole lot of respect for.
Tell me about that senior class. Edwin Cole, Zach Coleman, Desmond Lighty. What was it like to have them around, and how will they be missed?
Well, those guys are veteran bunch. Zach personally. He's a quiet guy, and when he speaks, guys listen. He he don't say a whole lot. Um, he's very knowledgeable about the game. Um, More knowledgeable about life than basketball. He's a tone setter off the court. He set the tone for our guys academically. He's he was an engineer major. Now he's physics. So he's taken a really really tough load every semester of college, and he's excelled in here at Frostburg State. With well over 3.0, and he'll be graduating in May. So he sets the tone on and off the court, but more than anything off the court, and he's a silent leader. But when he speaks, everyone listens. Ed Cole, he's a he's a he embodies everything that Frostburg State has to offer. He's a pretty solid student. He loves the on-campus life. He loves the off-campus life. He loves getting in the gym and working with the assistant coaches. He loves getting in the weight room and working with the strength coaches. He loves, he's grown so much. He's got so many relationships across campus with, students, other student athletes, with professors, faculty, staff. He's just a bubbly kid, and he's outgoing. Obviously he's a player. He's an athlete. Second team all conference this year again for the second year in a row. If our record was better, I'm sure he would have probably been a first team guy. But Ed's gonna be missed. His energy is just contagious, and as he was the last kid that I toured before leaving for Pitt Bradford when I was the head coach, and
That's a good one to end on.
Yeah, I was happy to be able to coach Coach Ed his senior year.
I want to touch on a few other guys. Daniel Alexander, first team all conference, second in the league in scoring, and if we're talking in November, I don't know if anyone outside of this building around the conference saw this leap coming from him. And here at the end of the season, it's not a surprise where he's ended up because we've seen the great season. But what can you say about the leap that he made this season and the impact that he had on your team and in games all around the league?
Well, we seen this coming early on, in the preseason, and in fact, watching film last season, or right when I came in May, June, we seen what he could be. So we gave, with Tyler Michael leaving, he was the leading scorer, 1,700 points scored in his career, I think it was. I mean, led the team in scoring for 3 straight years. There was going to be someone there's a void. Someone had to step up and take those, and one, to get those minutes, and number two, someone had to score those points. So we knew Daniel was going to take quite a leap, especially with his talent level and how he's improved every year as a basketball player. He was a 3-sport athlete in high school, so coming into college he was a 2-sport athlete, and he's trying to figure it all out. And now that he's just a basketball player, there's so much more he learned this year and so much more he has to learn. I think I told you off the record earlier this year that he's a blank canvas. He was, his basketball IQ, he has so much more to learn in this sport. But this was a jump that we thought he would take, and he was right on par with what we thought he could do. And I think his confidence grew after that Longwood game. He wasn't shooting it well, even prior to that game, even that day when we had shoot-arounds, like he didn't shoot it well. And we kept telling him, just play basketball. It'll come. You're a player. Just play basketball. And instinctually, things started to take over for him. His confidence grew throughout the year. It wavered a little bit, you can start to get on folks' scouting report, and they know who's the best player on the team and who's
Hmm.
the highest scorer and who's so guys started to guard him a little bit different, throw some junk defenses at him, and again, he has some things to learn. Once we get him in the lab, and this off season he'll watch. I'm sure he'll watch some film, and he'll work on some of the things that we tell him he need to work on. I'm sure he'll come back next year. Although we go in Division 2, I think he'll come back and he'll put up the same kind of numbers, probably even more.
I think that's a sign of respect that he saw that kind of defense, and the coaches around the league voted him to the first team.
Absolutely, absolutely,
That they knew his name.
absolutely.
Absolutely. And he had just a phenomenal season. I want to touch on Edwin Cole, his on-floor stuff. You mentioned second-team All-CAC, a 1,000-point score. The transition that he made to more of a wing role this season, and he still puts up outrageous rebounding and shot-blocking numbers. What can you say about how his role changed and how he embraced that as the season went on, especially as Coleman returned to the lineup?
Well, it was tough for him to go back to the post and then, um, you know, transition back to the wing when Coleman came back. So we still played him a little bit of both, inside and
Mm-hmm.
out. Um, it's a tough transition for any player to play a position that they've never played before, and for him to make that transition in a year, that was, big ups to Edwin. He did the best he could do. Um, you see, he made probably 25 or 33s this year.
Yeah, at about
Um,
36%.
yeah, yeah. So his that tells you the kind of work he was putting in.
Sure.
When he's probably never even made a three in his career, until
No.
this year. So it tells you the kind of work he put in. He trusts the system. He trusted the coaching staff, and we believed in him, and he was able to flourish.
Big year for him. I do want to hit on the third guy being Lawrence Pettis. And I have believed this last year, this year, if he plays well, this team can beat anyone. Those big wins at Salisbury and at Mary Washington are two great examples. What did you make of his year, and what are you looking for out of him moving forward?
Well, I thought Lawrence made huge strides in his leadership this year. Um, he knows this team goes as he goes. When he's playing well, the team follows. The energy's there. Um, when the commitment's there to work hard and play hard defense, and he's demanding guys to do the same thing, and it usually happens. So his leadership has grown throughout this year. What I'm looking for him moving forward, we need him. We need Lawrence to be more consistent. Um, Consistent defensively, consistent offensively, as well as far as scoring the ball. He don't have we don't we're not asking him to score a lot of points, but we do want him to be aggressive, and we do want him to to kind of speed it up a little bit, um, under control. But we would like for him to pick up the tempo a little bit. We'd like to play a little faster in the future. Um, but more than anything, we'd like for his consistency to grow moving forward. Because as you said, when he plays well, we play well, and that's the sign of a good team. That's the sign of any good point guard. Um, the team goes as you go.
It was really fun to watch the game at Mary Washington, where Mary Washington was attempting to press him when they were down and tried to come back, and that just did not work at all.
Oh yeah, you're not gonna press him. That's not gonna work. And I've always said the best press breaker is a really good point guard with the ball in his hand. Because Lawrence he'll make the great decision. One pass, and then if he get it back, and you don't actually absolutely have him cornered. Well, we're going 5-on-3 every time.
Yeah.
He's gonna beat the first two guys, and that you hit on it. That's kind of what I'm looking for moving
Hmm.
forward. You know, we shouldn't, we don't want to have to coach him to blow by guys or play fast because he has it in his game. We just want him to have the confidence to do it. Um, can't can't anyone stay in front of him? And if you can draw help, if you can draw two guys at a consistent rate, and he's a lefty. That puts so much pressure on the defense. And if he can do that consistently, we'd like to see him do that
Yeah.
consistently because that'll open up open shots for everyone else. Defense has got to rotate. A lot of stuff opens up.
He has been critical in a number of big wins these last 2 seasons that I've been here. I also want to hit on the next set of guys because last year the Bobcats graduated a large portion of their bench and the guys who rounded out the rotation. And I was really impressed with two groups of newcomers, guys who transferred in and made an impact, and first-year guys. The transfer group being, Kenner, Dawson, Demetric Williams. The first-year guys being Stevens, Sheen, Johnson. How did that mix how did this team come together and really be a team with so many new pieces? And what can you say about your transfer group and then your first-year group and how they contributed this year?
Well, I think these guys came together. It took some time. It's like like anyone coming into a new family or a new team. It's going to take some. It's going to take some time for chemistry to happen. For everyone to know other people's know their strengths, know other players' weaknesses. Um, but it takes time, and it took those guys. I would say about 7 or 8 weeks before they were really integrated into the system. But again, we were all a work in progress. I was new. We had players that didn't play from in the that was on the team who were starting to get minutes. We had new guys coming in. We had guys playing in different positions. So it was new for everyone. So it helped that it was new for everyone, but it also hurt that some of these guys it took a little bit longer to catch on to what we wanted to do. But once we got rolling, we were able to depend on some of those guys to play basketball and play quality minutes to get us victories. The transfer group, I'll start with them. Those guys, Dawson, um, who was it? That was Williams, Kenner. Well, these guys are guys that transferred in, and we expected to play, um, play these kind of minutes, be role players, and also compete for starting positions. These guys towards the middle and into the season, as you see, they became big time contributors
Yeah.
to what we wanted to do. And Dawson, he's been out of basketball for 2 years, so it was going to take him some time. Williams, he's been out of basketball for a year, so it was going to take him some time. So that's kind of how it goes. Terry Kenner, for the last 3 years, he's only played one of those years. So it was going to take him time to get acclimated. All these guys are leaving, junior college situation and coming here to a 4-year school. It's a lot, it takes a lot to
Mm-hmm.
get acclimated. Now you're living you're living in the dorms. Um, you're not living at home. Your classes are right here. You don't have to drive to school 5 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles, catch a train or whatever. It's an adjustment. There's expectations put on you that your last program or last coach probably didn't put on you that. Now that you're here on campus, we're putting certain expectations on you. There's an expectation to be in the weight room 3 days out of the week. There's expectations to be in the gym 5 days a week. So those were adjustments that our guys had to make. In season getting individual workouts, which a lot of these guys, I can honestly say, I'm not sure if they understood what these could do for you, until about the middle to the end of the season, and that's kind of when they started hitting their stride. But there's a lot of things that goes into a program that new players don't understand.
Sure.
Now with the freshmen, um, we brought in I think 6, 7 new freshmen, and we kind of had them, let them play themselves into positions, and we told everyone coming in this year, no one has positions, everybody's going to earn their minutes, and the 3 of the guys kind of those three that you mentioned kind of stood out. They stepped up. Didn't play, Torn played the most minutes.
Mm.
Torrance Stevens played the most minutes, and he's a hustler. He's active. I think he hit the. We played him a little too much too early, but we needed to when Zach went down because he's a tenacious rebounder. Then he hit a wall, and when we needed, and then this goes for the transfers too. Um, when we needed these guys to be efficient and technical on the defensive end more than anything, and pay attention to detail. That's when new guys kind of fall short, and a lot of the freshmen that you call them freshmen, people call them freshmen mistakes, and that's just what freshmen do. And those guys, that's where they have to grow.
Mm-hmm.
On a when we're bearing down and we got to make great decisions, not just good decisions on offense and defense. We have to communicate things. Um, those are the places where our freshmen really need to grow when the situation is critical and we have to pay attention to detail. We did. I feel like that's where our freshmen fell short. But for the most part, those guys they gave us everything they had. We asked them all. You know, do they think they've gotten better and how much better? And obviously, they think they know that they put in some work and they've improved this year. That's the main focus for us. And I also want to mention Jamil. Jamil played really well down the stretch.
Yes.
He ended up battling Desmond for that backup point guard spot. We want to get him in the gym and he there's some things he need to do. He need to watch a little more film. He need to break down his game. Break down his jump shot, shoot a lot more jump shots, and really make that a point of emphasis and his progression moving forward. But he's a really solid basketball player. Got some length at 6'4" and a half. Point guard, can handle the ball. Um, Really, really, really high basketball IQ. Um, so we're excited about Jamil also. I just wanted to throw him in there.
Sure. And going off of that group of newcomers, there's always progression from year one into year two. And to use your word, what are the expectations for your guys from this point into getting to next year? What are your expectations for your returners?
Well, these guys have had a whole season of myself and our coaching staff. So we're expecting them to this off season, number one, get in the gym and shoot the ball a lot. We were a terrible shooting team, and quite frankly, our guys didn't get in the gym and get up enough shots. Some guys did, but our expectation is our guys to get in the gym and really, really work their butts off this spring and this summer, and to be taking anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 jump shots. That's every single player. 2,000 to 3,000 jump shots, and to be shooting 400 to 500 free throws a week. That free throws killed us in the last game. Not only the last game, the last 10 games, free throws killed us. So we're expecting our shooting to be better. We're expecting our guys to be in the weight room 3 days a week, at least 3 days a week. We're expecting our guys to be playing pickup basketball, to be doing skills and drills 5 to 6 days a week. So off-season training, that's our expectations for them. But coming back next year, we're expecting guys to just be bigger, stronger, faster, and have a better understanding of what we're asking as a coaching staff.
And while we're in next year mode, transition recruiting, obviously, with Cole and Coleman graduating, that's a lot of size. What are you looking for from prospective student athletes to come in here? Not just for big men, but just what are you looking for a future Bobcat?
Well, number one, we're looking for guys that want to come in and do things the right way. What's that mean, Coach Brown? We want guys to come in that want to graduate. That's number one. Our graduation rate here as a basketball program over the last 20 years has been really, really phenomenal. So we want to keep that going. We graduate guys and they go out into society and do great things. So that's number one. We want we want to bring in guys that want to graduate, that want to do well, well-rounded guys. And obviously we're going to be have a scholarship situation now. We want to bring in guys who can play basketball. We need to upgrade our talent. And that's all across the board. You mentioned big men. We graduate our two starting post players. Well, we want to bring in. We do have guys who are bigs who didn't start this year who's hungry to get those minutes. Well, we want to bring in guys whose ceiling is as high or higher than the guys we have in the program. We want to bring in guys who's going to be hungry and be able to compete right away with the guys we have in the program. So we want to bring in two bigs who can play, especially one who can play right away. As far as wing players, we definitely want to get bigger on the wings. Right now we're recruiting some really dynamic players at all three positions: the point, the wing, and the post. But we think if we can get a few of these guys in that we're going after pretty hard, I think we'll be solid going into the Mountain East next year.
Finally, this is something that you've talked about a couple times, that being a young head coach and learning on the fly. What's something you've learned from this season or want to improve yourself from this year and moving forward?
That's a good question. Well, number one, let me start with what I want to improve. Um, I definitely want to break down our defense a little more than I did this year. Um, at times, and I know everyone was new, uh, new for me,
Mm-hmm.
and you know the most of these new guys were new to the system, or all of the new guys were new to the system, and at times I don't think they quite understood. Um, we didn't execute, so that's all I can gather out of it. That I didn't do a good enough job teaching it. So I like to break down our defense a little more, um, so guys can get a real understanding of what we want to do defensively. Because a lot of times uh, we weren't on the same page, and um, again, I take that. I put that on me. Um, what was the next question? The other question.
What'd you
I'm sorry.
learn, and what do you want to improve on? Yeah.
What did I learn? Um, well, I I've been a head coach before, so I can't say I learned that all wins are hard to come by. But it just reinforced that
Mm-hmm.
winning is hard. Um, you have to do everything in your power to get to be excellent, to be perfect, knowing that you're going to fall short. And even if you do that, you still can lose. But it just reinforced that winning is hard. And if you don't have the right things in place, the right personnel in place, and you're not paying attention to detail, um, chances are, and not discipline, chances are you're gonna struggle to win.
Was this a fun year for you and your staff and your team?
Yes, it was. It was. Well, winning is fun. Let me first say that. So it was. We didn't have fun a lot of sometimes, but overall we did have a good time together. I love this group of guys. Again, my first year back in my alma mater, we expected it to go better, but again, you and I both talked. We knew it was going to be a little bit tough to put together the amount of wins that folks thought we should put together. We had some really, really bad injuries early on in the year. But outside of all those things, I'm sure we created memories that, that'll last a lifetime, and especially for our senior group.
It's the first step in a series of steps for this men's basketball program. It's been a fun season to cover. Coach Sean Brown, thank you for stopping and chatting with us every single week during the season.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Next on the Bobcast, we have a season preview here for the FSU men's lacrosse team. We're really excited to have head coach Steve Gartelman here with us today. And this is Coach's first year at Frostburg, coming from Division II Lake Erie College. Coach, what drew you to Frostburg State, and what made this opportunity a good fit for you?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me. Excited to be a part of it and getting into the Bobcat family, deeper and deeper every day. The first thing that drew my attention was the success of the program. It was established. It was a spot that I knew has been winning games, was maintaining some consistent success. And once we get to campus and I started going through the interview process and really started to meet some of the captains, meet the people on campus, it was just one of those welcoming environments that really felt like, almost like a natural fit, where once I came in, kind of clicked with some of the guys we talked to and seeing the facilities and everything that was on campus here, it felt like we can take strides with an already successful team.
Yeah, we're excited to have you moving into the Division II transition where you're already familiar, coming from Lake Erie College. What's a little bit different and kind of helpful for you being a spring sports coach? You've had pretty much this whole year to kind of get a chance to know your team a little bit, learn the team a little bit. What's been the process like to really get to know your team, and then also the second part, kind of figure out what you have here?
Sure. That is the best part about being a spring sport, is being able to grow together over the season, and being that it was a new staff, new coaching mindset. Some of the things we're doing is new. It's good to have that time together, and the most important thing for us was to get to know each other and get to know what makes us tick, what makes us click, and all those things. And I'm a pretty, I guess if I had to say it, a player's coach kind of mindset, where I like to give the guys some freedoms and powers to play free and aggressive, and we coach them up on decisions. So doing all that, they kind of understood where their leash was, and kind of getting some opportunities to try new things, because when we make mistakes, we have opportunities to learn. As long as we're not making those mistakes twice, we feel like that's a good opportunity for to take strides forward. If we're taking a risk, maybe that's not the right time to do that, then we know going forward, so we don't make that mistake twice, then we're learning, we're taking steps forward towards our goal. So that was really it. Was really giving them the understanding of, we're going to talk, we're going to build this together while we learn. We don't have to win a game in October. We don't have to win a championship in November. We want to go ahead and have our success in the spring. So it was a long, calm process to get going. And I'm a big believer in enjoying our time together. Whether we're squatting, running, doing all the stuff that might be really tough and grueling, we have to enjoy it, because there's 50 guys doing it together. So find some joy in that, and we can have a good time. So some speakers come out to practice. We have a good time here and there. But we have no shortage of effort, and that's what we prided ourselves on, was giving a perfect effort. That's what our captains and our leadership council helped our coaching staff come up with as our primary standard. We can control that every single time we go out, how much effort we give for the brother next to us. If we give a perfect effort, we can't be mad. We can coach up the decisions, make sure we make good lacrosse decisions, but effort is something we can control, and we've been seeing a lot of that from the guys, so we're very happy on the strides taken forward in our team culture.
Last question about you, Coach. You've already kind of gotten into the style. What's your style and then philosophy when it comes to the game of lacrosse?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of freedom. It's a flow game. I'm a huge football fan, but we don't get the opportunity to line up, kind of assess, and then play. It's a constant go, go, go mentality. So my philosophy is, coaches win practices, players win games. We go out there, and that's a Pete Carroll quote. We go out there and we ask a lot of our guys every day at practice. We grind them up a little bit. We ask a lot of them on the physical side as much as the mental side, with the opportunities to recover as we get closer to game time. But if they do what we ask of them throughout practice, they work in that perfect effort mindset in practice, and we go out there on Saturday on game day believing that we've given them the tools to be successful, and we can coach up those decisions and they can be confident. So if we could play fast, free lacrosse while being coordinated, that's what we're looking for. We want to press out on the defensive end, have a little bit more tempo on that side, make people respond to us instead of us responding to them. And offensively, we want to shoot 35-plus shots a game, shoot 35% per game, then we should be filling up the net pretty good there. So connecting both sides of the floor with great defense that creates offensive runs, and if we don't get the offensive goal, having a great ride that helps the defense settle into what they want to do.
Well, there you have it from Coach, the style and philosophy. I'm taking my notes now to get to it. Of press defense, shoot 35 shots at 35%, some benchmarks there to hit. But let's shift gears into this 2019 season. Frostburg is coming off a year in which the Bobcats went 10-9 last year, reaching the CAC semifinals for the fourth time in 5 years. Some big wins, Southern Virginia in the tournament, a win over E-Town here, and the Blue Jays went on to be a tournament team after that. a lot of familiar faces in key spots have graduated. Adam Gross handled the ball a lot and was an All-American. Keegan Colgrove led the team in goals. Bradley Jones, who's now a member of your staff, was an All-CAC defender. Brian Kolonsky, a top defensive midfielder. There are key spots all over the field where there's some turnover. So who are the important guys to know on this 2019 men's lacrosse team?
Yeah, well, it's nice that one of the missing pieces is still within the program with Bradley Jones being on staff, who's been a huge help. First off, with my transition into the program, helping me understand what the culture has been, and what has been going really well. So he's been a huge help there, and he's continuing to help the program even though he's not in the field. But the guys to watch out for offensively, Jason Clinton, Paul Roop, those guys are coming back. And were contributors last year in smaller capacities. They're stepping up to bigger roles this year. And Jason Clinton has really done a good job of, I guess we'll call it transforming his body. He's putting a lot of effort. He's working his tail off. He's riding hard, getting GBs. He's not just a goal scorer. He's doing a lot more that maybe nobody was asking of him in the past because he had some ball handlers around him. And now going into his sophomore year, he's kind of really stepping up and answering the bell there. So we're excited about him. Paul Roop, like we mentioned, is our right-handed guy coming out of the attack side, and he's really doing well. He played a little midfield for us last year, a little bit of spots on the field, and he's gotten the experience, and now he's really feeling comfortable in that role. And those two guys should be big leaders down there. Can't forget Mike Sipes. I know that's all three of the attackmen, but he's another guy who's a vocal leader. He's kind of the spark plug of the offense. I think Jason and Paul might do more of the ball carrying for us, but Sipes kind of steers the ship as far as tempo and speed is concerned. You got to watch out for Jimmy Lucas. He's going to be a two-way midfielder for us who I think is really ready to pop open and really show the world what he's capable of on both sides of the ball. He's this big, strong guy who's been able to play on the offensive end his whole career. Now we're asking him to play some defense, and we're finding out more and more that he can do it, and he can do it very well. So we're excited about those guys coming through. Jake Howarth is a captain for us who dominated the run test for us. The guy doesn't get tired, and he's a self-made man where he puts in a lot of work all day, every day, and it's really shown that those efforts are coming through for him on the field now. Nick Mattis, the LSM, senior LSM, and Greg Giles, those two as a 1-2 punch are tenacious and smart. We kind of know what we're getting out of them every single day, and it's a lot of good stuff that we're getting out of them every single day. So those guys are fantastic. Jack Marks is a returner in the cage. That's one of the staples we can continue to build around. He's having a really good career settling into his role as a leader now as a junior and making stops, which is obviously an important part for our goaltender. And, those are guys that we really expect to stand out. And the bummer on the defensive side is we have too many guys to play. We have a lot of really good poles, and I say that with a little joke in mind that it's not necessarily a bummer. It's a good problem to have because we could have a 4 or 5 or 6-man rotation down low. And the way we want to play defense by being pressured out, we expect them to kind of exhaust themselves, get a lot of pressure, make some plays, and then let's get the next guy in to do the same thing. And it's been selfless. That's what we really like about all those guys in the defensive end. They're about the unit more than they're about their playing time, and they're willing to exhaust themselves and take some shifts. So you'll see a lot of names down low at the close defense spot all contributing.
Well, those are the individuals. What are the strengths of your lacrosse team right now, and what do you hope that your team really grows into as the season goes on?
Mm-hmm. I think the defensive side of the ball is our strength with most of the guys returning on that side as far as in the cage, some of our defensive midfielders, maybe not the top guys with Brad Jones and Kowalski going out, but we still have a lot of guys who had experience in the past staying on that side, and they're challenging our offense every day. And what I preach is that when we have great defense, it makes our offense easier because we get runouts, we get transition breaks. And if the offense doesn't score, like we mentioned, we have a ride that we have in place that we think is pretty tenacious. So I think the strength is going to be the connection of both sides of our field. We've had really good half-field sets in the past, but I think connecting those as far as the transition offensive game and a suffocating ride will be something that you see different this year, and we want that to be the fuel of our team. If the middle of the field is being controlled, then we feel like we control the tempo of the game.
Well, those are some of the most exciting moments in men's lacrosse, especially last season. I can think of a couple end-to-end goals with some long stick midfielders making some plays. Mattis in there for sure against Ursinus and Elizabethtown. Just little bite-sized chunks of each third of the field. Offensively, you've mentioned the guys that are back, Rupert, Clinton, Sipes, Jimmy Lucas having the ball a lot. What are your expectations for that group, and what's that group going to look like in terms of the depth playing up there offensively?
Sure. The attack group also has a fourth guy who's really, in a trusted range for us. Kyle Kinney, who's a senior for us. He's a guy you'll probably see in the mix. Same way as the defense. We're asking them to exhaust themselves and sub out. He's absolutely in that rotation for the fourth man. You might see him in some man-up opportunities. And then we have a lot of young guys, a lot of first-year guys that are coming out and really wowing us with what they can do. Matt Ward is one specifically who's he's on our leadership council. He's a great character guy, but he also just works his tail off. He doesn't seem to get tired, and he's doing the right things. He's a guy who's making mistakes, but not making them twice. So he'll go out there as a young guy, make a skip pass, and we're like, Matt, maybe that's not it. He goes, okay, and then we don't see him make those mistakes the second time. So he's really buying into that, taking some chances and making sure we learn from those. So he's a smart, cerebral guy that's really doing well on both sides of the ball. Tanner Donaldson, hopefully will be coming back from a shoulder injury, but he had a really good fall season for us. And as he gets healthy, he'll probably work his way into contributing roles. And then Jake Bowman, another guy, first-year midfielder for us that you'll probably see in the mix as well, a guy who's coming along, taking some strides. He's a tough kid, and he's from the Buffalo area, so he's come a long way to play at Frostburg.
Oh, yeah.
So he's pretty committed to what we're doing, and we like what those guys are doing. Not to say that the other guys aren't doing, anything that will contribute, but those guys are standing out in something special.
Sure. We're looking forward for them offensively. The middle of the field, there's so much to cover in men's lacrosse. Your face-off guys, offensive midfielders, defensive midfielders, two-way guys, long poles. What has you excited about the midfield this year?
I got to say it's the face-off crew. When we went through our spring scrimmages, we won all the battles at the face-off X in all 4 of those because we had 2 scrimmage days with 2 scrimmages each. And we won the face-off battles. I think our 4 guys are really doing a great job. Sammy Natvig is a guy who's going to be a huge part of the mix. Drew Match is a senior who's coming back, and he's got really quick hands. He's going to be a fun player to see create. Michael Thorne Jr. is another guy who's in the mix. All these guys will get reps. They're battling every day. It's kind of a fluid depth chart for us there because they're so close.
Sure.
And then Sean Winans is a defensive midfielder for us, but he can take face-offs at the X. And actually, he went out there for a few man-down reps at the face-off X and won them clean. So all 4 guys are out there mixing it up and getting us the ball. And the wing plays with that. They seem to have a good chemistry. So hopefully get some make-it-take-it opportunities where we can score some goals and have our face-off game pretty much control the tempo as we get the ball back.
Sure. As far as your depth in the midfield, I know with Kalonsky leaving, maybe a little bit little thin with injuries due to the defensive midfield. What are we looking in terms of depth just across the board in the midfield?
Yeah, I think it's there. We should have at least 6, maybe 7 offensive guys. We preach the two-way stuff, so when I say offensive, they're still defensive-capable guys. When we say defensive, we still trust them to play offensively, in opportunities and when they have enough juice in the tank. So Sean Winans is a great staple. We've talked about him a few times on the defensive side. Taylor McVean and JoJo Edwards, those are 2 guys who are going to be huge contributors. Really the ideal two-way guys for us. We have them at practice, flipping to red, flipping to white, flipping to red, flipping to white. They're just all over the field for us. So Taylor and Jordan Edwards will really be guys that I think you'll see maybe not lighting up the stat column in goals, but they'll be getting ground balls and getting assists, and they'll be doing those little gritty things that connect us there. So I think that's great to have some more depth there. And then Dan Horak is another first-year guy who's really starting to step up. He's a guy, another one that crushed the run test for us, and he's playing some really good defense that we're hoping will translate to some easy run-out opportunities, and he can put his name in the stat column also.
Sure. And is it fair to say with the shot clock and kind of your style, Frostburg might not be as deliberate as it has been in the past with getting personnel on, getting personnel off pretty consistently?
Yeah, we'll still look to play to our strengths, so we're definitely going to, like we talked about, some offensive-minded midfielders, some defensive-minded midfilders, but we give them a long leash. If a defensive midfielder has offense in his mind or if he has energy in the tank, we want him to play some action.
Sure.
And then sub through the offensive set, not just run off and look like it's a sprint. It's going to be a sprint and a hard run, but it's something that will hopefully enhance our offensive set. So they know offensive concepts, they know our offensive schemes, and they're supposed to know how to sub throughout that because our offense is based on some freedoms. It's just a couple rules that coordinate us. We're not looking for guys to follow lines that I draw. We have to read and react out there. So we're going to give some more freedom out there. We'll still look to get our guys on and off in spots, but realistically, if we have numbers – or if we see good opportunities, we want them to be confident and decisive to attack. We like the chaos mentality. I got it from Coach Pilot. Constantly harass and create opportunities to score. Chaos.
I'm going to have to write that one down, too. I'm going to have to get all these acronyms after the fact.
Yeah, a few too many.
Yeah. I want to get to the defense finally. 2 starting close defenders graduated, and that D-Mitty Kalonsky. How is that group shaping up, and how does that group function with Jack Marks here in year 3?
It's been really good. I think they're really understanding now the limits as far as how far we can press out. I'm a believer in that it's easier to pull back than it is to turn it up. So all fall we're out there pressing out, getting a little crazy. Maybe we got run by a few times early in the spring here, and they're finding out where they're strongest. Some guys are great to press out to the boundaries. Some guys maybe just a little bit further in. Some guys not pressed out at all, and we'll figure out who's where. But really, the chemistry is all there, so our slides are pretty on point. Jack Marks and the communication has gotten really good, really calming environment because it's an intense position to be in the cage and on the defensive end, and when a goal gets in, nobody really enjoys that fact. So it's tough sometimes to have that conversation. But over the past week or so, we've really seen them take a step forward, and a goal goes past somebody, they're able to talk about it, calibrate, and go better out and battle the next time in a little bit better set. So I think their chemistry is really coming in. They're calm. They're not, yelling at each other if a goal goes in. They're able to constructively talk and get to it, and they love playing hard, playing fast. So getting out there and pressure on guys is giving Jack some more looks out wide instead of some inside looks. So if we can get out there and stay on people's hands, he'll catch a lot of balls, and we'll get out and run.
In all phases of the game, it really seems like you emphasize freedom and making good decisions. How do you expect the team to grow throughout the year, and do you expect it to be a process?
Absolutely. We same mindset of we don't need to win a championship in October. We want to win every game we come across, but the idea is if we play here on Wednesday coming up, the team that we play on Saturday is going to see a different team than they saw on tape on Wednesday because we should improve each day just a little bit. Our schemes won't dramatically change. I believe in building on our foundations towards just better lacrosse. We'll throw in some wrinkles and some differences as we go, but nothing too dramatic. But we really expect every time you see us out in the field, there's a step forward, and it's a different team than we were the last time we were on film because we've learned. We've taken a step forward, whether it's conditioning, decision-making, or heck, maybe we just dialed in our stick and we're shooting a little bit better. We do expect to take strides forward each and every game.
The CAC looks to be as competitive as ever. 3 teams ranked in the preseason top 20 by the major polls. What are you looking to accomplish in your non-conference schedule, and then once you get to conference play?
Yeah, so the non-conference schedule, it's another tough one, but it's all games that we feel will be very competitive in. So we want to come out winning as many of those as possible. That's obviously the goal. But really getting our rhythm in conference is going to be key. We want to make sure that we get into that conference with momentum. Definitely a handful of wins under our belt, and we're hoping that we can be somewhere in those top couple of seeds. We want to upset a few of those. We're placed 4th in the preseason poll, so we want to upset a few of those people that are above us in those polls because we believe in prediction versus production. Prediction's out there. Everyone's going to predict a lot of things, and they're entitled to that. Opinion is a beautiful thing, but production is what we have control of. So when we go out there on game day, we have just as much say as anybody else in that field. So let's go out and produce what we can, and hopefully that mindset leads us to overcoming some obstacles that maybe we haven't in the past or recently, because it's a great conference, great schedule for us. I think that we have a chance to win all of them, but realistically we want to make sure that we're hitting our rhythm right when we get to conference and push through there. So hopefully we can host a conference matchup this year and bring some excitement to Frostburg and push our way through to that conference championship. We want to see ourselves there at the end of the year.
Finally, this coming week here, Wednesday, February 27th at Lebanon Valley, the home opener March 2nd here against a Washington, Maryland team that got the better of the Bobcats last year. What are you looking for out of your team just in these first few matchups specifically?
Yeah, it's going to be a game where we have to be smart because our conditioning will just get better as the year goes. Like we said, the guys work their tails off, but the teams that we're playing will have a game or two under the belt, and this will be our first go at it. We've had a few scrimmages, but we expect the guys to maybe have a jitter or two early on, but I expect them to be flying around. Like that perfect effort mindset, if we are playing fast and coordinated, we'll be able to take care of a lot of things, and all we got to do is settle in as the game goes. As we get better each game, we'll get better each quarter, but we got to come out with a win, whether it's a 7-6 win, or a 15-5 win. You never know how it's going to happen, but we just got to find a way to grit out a win. And I think this team can be multiple. We can be explosive. We can be calm and patient. So we'll see how the flow of the game goes in these first 1 or 2 quarters of the Leb Val game, and when we get to Washington College, first couple of quarters there, and we'll see if we can continue to play fast or if we have to come back and kind of control the game a little bit more, which we believe we have the ability to do both. And as I said, I like to play fast early because it's easier to pull back than it is to turn it on.
Well, Coach, we are fired up for men's lacrosse. I'll tell you what, March 2nd against Washington, that is the home opener. We'll have it on the Bobcat Sports Network, and we are fired up to have you on the Bobcast every week. Thank you for joining us here in the preseason.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Next on the Bobcast, we have women's lacrosse with head coach Hayley Whear. Women's Lax falling in the home opener to Randolph-Macon. And talking to you post-game, the team didn't look like itself, played like itself, came out flat in the first half. Was that more of Randolph-Macon or really your team's mindset going into the game?
I think it was our team's mindset going into the game. Like you had just said, our scrimmage last week and our practices leading up, we were on a totally different page than we saw when that game started. And even the first half to the second half, it just wasn't still our team, even though our energy level picked up a little bit. But that's not what we expect, and that's not how we play. And I think all around we're disappointed in the performance and hope to continue this week to push forward as we move past that game.
You mentioned to me at halftime the offensive execution efficiency, the speed of just moving around and making decisions. The first half, the clearing numbers are solid, 9 for 11. But of those 9 successful clears, only 7 shots, 4 on goal in the half. What did you see specifically that needed to improve in terms of the offensive execution in that first half?
It's a little frustrating because at practice we harp on every single day that first look is to cage, first look is to drive, and they can repeat it to you verbatim. And every day at practice they do it. And so to go out there and just kind of stand and have no off-ball movement, no drives to cage, just no sense of urgency out there, it was just a little frustrating because that's something that we've talked about on a daily basis for the past couple weeks.
On the other end of the field, Randolph-Macon had 8 free position shots in that first half and then just 1 in the second half. How did the defensive group kind of clean things up as that game went along in that capacity?
I think they were doing a good job of bodying up on our free positions. I think we were getting stuck in shooting space a lot. There's a couple things that you can do to really draw shooting space there and get some defenders, and there's nothing a defender can do about it. It just is what it is. And so in the beginning, those first 2 that they got right off the bat on that left side, there's nothing that low defender could have done. They came in with their stick, and that's just the play that it is to get them in shooting space to get a free position. So I think we just kind of need to step up there with our goalie a little bit and kind of stop some of those easy ones that were carry high, shoot high, or where they carried low and shot low, and we need to stop those immediately.
In the second half, FSU was able to get some momentum. There was a stretch, 3 straight draw controls went the Bobcats' way, 2 goals, and then another really solid opportunity. What did you like in that stretch, and how can that snapshot extend to be a longer stretch or ideally an entire game?
Yeah, the same thing. I mean, that was frustrating as well because you saw exactly what we had been talking about, those draw controls and boxing out and coming up with those ground balls and then actually putting the ball in the net. I mean, that was so easy in just a matter of like a minute. And so for us not to be able to continue that, and we thought that was the spark that we needed, and it just wasn't enough. Nobody else stepped up, and it just kind of fell flat again, and that's just frustrating because that is there, and that is how our team normally plays. So if we would have had that the whole game, I think it would have had a different outcome.
And really, offensively, Frostburg ends up with goals from Morgan Cavey and Stephanie King. I think the team had some chances and didn't convert, and many of the offensive players around the Caveys and King are going to have much larger roles than they had in the past. Do you think that Saturday was a chance for some of those other players to kind of understand the chances that they'll see, like the ones on Saturday, and the fact that they need to convert those?
Yeah, I think that it's a huge opportunity, and we talk every time with recruits. I think I've talked to you about this a little bit, that when you come in as a recruit, we say that opportunity to play is there.
Sure.
And when you talk to a recruit, their eyes light up and they're so excited and, oh, that's awesome, I can't wait. And then when you get here, I think that kind of expectation level that comes with it does not always click right away. And so now, yes, you get to play, but there's also expectations that come with that, and you have to put the ball in the back of the net. That's your job as a low attacker. And so to kind of be a little timid down there and kind of stand back and not drive or not take those lanes, that's not acceptable in our minds. And so that's something that we are going to work on. And I mean, we've talked again from Morgan last year. She can't do it alone all the time, and she needs some help. And I think that now having a lot of people there, all that started on Saturday, were not freshmen. So they've been here, they understand, they know our expectations. So I think that we need to change that going into this game on Wednesday and have some other people step up to the plate.
Sure, and let's move forward. With your young roster, how do you expect that the team can kind of learn from this one and improve really one game to the next, especially throughout this early non-conference schedule?
I think it's really up to them. I mean, we talked after the game and about that we can only help them so much, and it's up to them after to, they're the ones out there on the field, and they're the ones that have to want to make the change and make the difference. And I think we saw glimpses of it in the scrimmage, and we saw glimpses of it on Saturday. I mean, Emily Chick's defense and her talking ability down there and how loud she is, like, that's huge as a freshman to have that. And Emma Neff going in off the bench, I mean, she had a bunch of caused turnovers, and she really pushed herself a little bit further, and she's been injured for 2.5 weeks. So I think that there are glimpses there, and I think it's just going to come up to them to get a little bit more comfortable as they move forward and hopefully realize now after this game how much each person really is important to this game and how much we really do need everyone to kind of step up.
Well, let's look forward. The Frostburg State women's lacrosse team starts a 3-game road trip. It doesn't get easier from here. At Bridgewater, a midweek game on the road on Wednesday, and then at Lynchburg on Saturday. Really, what are you looking for from your team this week?
I'm looking for my team that we practice with. I want to move past Saturday. It is what it is. It happened. But that's not the team that I've coached for the past couple weeks, and I don't ever want to see them again. So I think moving forward and kind of stepping up, I mean, Bridgewater is coming off of 2 losses. So they're in the same boat that we are, and I think they're going to be at home, and they're going to be excited. And I think it's up to us to kind of be able to travel down there and be able to kind of wake up off the bus and be ready to go and push the pace when we need to and get back on and come home.
We are in it now. The season has begun. Women's lacrosse, a pair of road games this coming week. Head coach Hayley Whear, thank you for joining me on the Bobcast.
Thanks, Andy.
Next on the Bobcast, we have track and field with head coach Dale Louie, and this is a preview edition. The men's track and field team, we're going to send some guys to the All-Atlantic Region Track and Field Conference Championships at Ithaca College this weekend. And really, Coach, this is the first year that Frostburg is going to these All-Atlantic Region Championships. What exactly is this event, and what kind of competition do you expect to see here this weekend?
Well, the conference itself was something created, I think, maybe about 3 years or so ago. It was from indicators, an attempt by the track and field coaches up in that what was part of the Atlantic region of the NCAA for track and field to create their own conference and have a little bit of a trying to ensure a quality opportunity to compete at the end of the year when people are really trying to, last chance to make it to nationals. A lot of your last chance meets are very iffy in terms of who shows up.
Sure.
And it sometimes you go and you chase something and it's not the optimum competition environment. So this regional concept. Some of the Mideast schools, and we obviously were one of them, were invited to join that over this past summer, and we're looking at it as a really high quality meet that hopefully will pull some of our people into the national mix.
Sure. What kind of competition do you expect, and what kind of standards are there standards in place, and what are those standards like in comparison to, say, an ECAC?
Right. Well, currently the standards for this region are much tougher than ECAC. I sometimes say they're kind of like the ECAC used to be with some of their standards.
Sure.
Which were really just kind of a cut below the national qualifying back in the day when we had automatic standards and provisional standards, which at the D3 level no longer exist. But this region has a number of relays and individuals who are right on the bubble, so to speak, of getting into NCAA. They recognize that if they do extremely well, they might get in. They may not, but the competition and the environment is there. Ithaca has a beautiful facility. We were up there a couple years ago for indoor ECACs. And I've been telling our athletes that, and a couple of our athletes competed up there, like Shamar Nelson, for example, was up there. So they know that the physical facility itself is conducive to top performances.
Well, who is Frostburg State sending, and what events? Can you kind of lay out? We're sending the men to this. Who's going to go?
In the 60 dash, we are definitely running Clay Washington. Shamar Nelson is also qualified. Within the next 24 hours, we'll be deciding whether or not he will actually compete in the 60. There's a little bit of time overlap with his primary event, which is a long jump, which he definitely will be competing in. We have the men's distance medley relay. We'll run the same team that we ran at the conference championships. So we'll have Colin Flynn handing off to Demetrius Sims, who hands off to Jake Rickards, and then Robbie Romano will be running the mile, which is the last of those 4 legs. Robbie will also be competing in the open mile, which is on the second day. The DMR is on the first day, Friday, and Robbie's mile is on the second day. We've got John Kearns throwing the shot put and the weight throw. And then we will have most likely we're going to run a men's 4x2. The composition, that's a little bit up in the air, but right now it looks like we'll be running Demetrius Sims, Clay Washington, Tyreek Charles, and probably Matt Robinson. Shamar could be part of that mix, but a lot of that's going to depend on day one.
Sure. So is that the grouping we have?
I believe so. Hopefully I haven't missed anybody there.
Sure. So a number of athletes in the national conversation. Shamar Nelson, 30th in the long jump at 7.02 meters. Between 7.1 and 7.2, you're in the conversation. 7.2 probably gets you in. John Kearns, 38th in the weight throw at 17.39 meters. Would have to clear 18 to get to nationals. The DMR that won at CACs would have to shave some time off to get to nationals. As far as those different guys or groupings and events in the conversation, what are you looking for just when you're chasing a national number? What are you looking for out of those athletes?
Well, one of the things as coaches that we really have to preach to these athletes is not to get focused on exactly what you talked about. Sometimes you'll see athletes literally, just almost going down the runway and looking out there at the sand at where they need to jump and forgetting about what they are supposed to be doing. And so that's an issue with chasing something. You hope that chase brings an optimum performance. I think we've got some veteran people here who have learned from the past, and my hope would be that they do focus on the job they have to do. And, let the jump land where it lands, let the weight land where it lands, do your thing, and hopefully good things will happen. Same thing with that DMR that's in the mix there. Does everybody have to step it up? Yes. If everybody steps it up, do we have a good shot of getting to nationals? Absolutely. Is anything guaranteed? Absolutely not. So it's exciting. There's very clear goals involved here this weekend. What's not clear is exactly what do you need to do to get in, because there are no automatic standards anymore at our level. But nevertheless, you read off exactly what they are fully aware of, and they know what they need to do.
Well, it's exciting. Last year it was the women's team who had a great ECAC weekend. This year the men are heading to All-Atlantic, and just being in this national conversation, I think, lends a lot of juice to the end of the indoor season.
Absolutely. This is what you're training for, and of course, Frostburg State University has a long history of excellence at the Division III level in track and field. And, we're proud to carry that on, and I guess you could say we're proud to carry that to the very last Division III indoor season that Frostburg has.
So we're fired up for it. It's the men heading to the All-Atlantic Region Championships. Coach Dale Louie, it's been exciting this indoor season, and we'll be excited to see how the team competes this weekend. Thanks.
Thank you very much.